Hey, welcome to the City Rev Life podcast. This is a special Hot Takes edition. What we do is we answer a question that we don't know what the question is going to be. And when I say we, I say myself, I'm Roby. This is Pastor John, one of my closest friends and brothers. He's a lead pastor of Greenhouse. And
that's what they tell me.
That's what they tell him. He is. And this envelope has a question in it. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to read it right now.
Drum roll, please.
Yes, I'm going to read it now, and then they really sealed this.
Wow.
This must be a tough one.
This is intense.
I'm going to read this now, and then we are going to have to answer it.
All right.
So here it goes. Here's the question. Oh, wow. Sorry, I'll read it.
Yeah, you're just leaving me in suspense here, dude.
Do you think social media has helped or harmed discipleship and church engagement?
Yes.
Wow. Do you think social media has helped or harmed discipleship and church engagement? There you go.
Yeah. You want to go first? You want me to go first? I have thoughts.
I had to read the question. That means I always do the question reading so that you have to go first.
Right.
And I can
So
have time
has
to think.
social media helped or harmed in terms of discipleship and church engagement?
Yes.
Yes.
You can't do that. You've got to pick a lane.
No, I think okay, so here's my approach. So I have a unique, maybe not overly unique, but I have sort of my own journey with social media. I passionately opposed social media when it first came out, to the extent that I wrote a joke song in college called The Evil Demon-Possessed Version of Friendship, called Facebook, when Facebook first came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, this is horrible. Da, da. And then when I was working for a charity foundation, I came back to the States and I had to figure out a way to generate income before I jumped back into occupational ministry. And so I ran a digital marketing agency doing social media. So I did it for a living for several years.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
How ironic.
You did that. And now I'm somewhere in between the two. So like I've somewhat like lived this journey. I think social media, based off of the data, by the way, I geek out on some of the brain research, and so there's really good, significant brain research out on this, realizing social media is like a steak knife. It can be exceptionally useful to slice into that filet or that mushroom burger for you vegetarians out there, whatever you got to use it for. And you can just as easily slice your finger off if you do not use it with the utmost care and deliberation. And I think that's what the data is saying. Oh, you can be exposed to all sorts of incredible, life-giving content that stirs your love for Jesus and challenges you to be more engaged. And you can absolutely fuel the doom-scrolling, death trap, anxiety spiking, and absolutely suck away all contentment. Both.
All right. So are you, are you like right in the middle, or are you like, give me a percentage, like 1 to 10 social media is helpful, like 1 is it's bad?
I think for our average approach, if left unexamined, it's bad. It's dangerous. It's more on the dangerous side than on the helpful side.
Oh, okay.
And what I mean by that is John Lash. So I'm just talking John.
Yeah.
I have had to be honest and realize, social media sometimes helps me, but it more often hinders me.
Yeah.
So I need to intentionally engage and deliberately and regularly disengage as a resistance for the sake of my soul. So like on Sabbath, you guys have talked about that, and on that day of rest, I am actively trying to stay off social media. And I say that I have to actively try to do it. And that's where I realized, I was like, whoa, this is hard for me. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So I think if you don't examine it, I think and the research shows, like the doom scrolling thing, the contributing factor to anxiety, it drifts naturally. The current moves in a dangerous direction. You have to intentionally leverage it in a helpful direction.
So that's what I would say that. Let me just clearly say, like, social media itself is not bad. City Rev has a social media account. I still have all of my social media accounts active, even though I don't post on them. Just my personal story is I was very engaged in social media, and then I, as an experiment, just took a break from social media. I wanted to see how it affected me, and I actually found myself flourishing so much more getting off of social media that I stayed off of it, and now that was over 11 years ago.
Yep.
And so again, let me just be very clear. Social media is not bad. It is a helpful tool. I love our social media department. I think it's doing a lot of, it's healthy, it's good. I think it's important. But I would say it's so powerful that I'm in agreement with you. It's so powerful that if not used intentionally, it can be a poison. So I would actually put an illustration like, I would use an illustration more like radioactive material. So radioactive material is a unbelievably powerful tool that can save a life. I mean, it's how we get an X-ray. It's how we treat things like cancer.
Generate energy.
Yeah, generate energy in like but it's got to be very calculated and very wisely used. But it's either like extremely powerfully good, or it's a poison. And so the ways that it can be a poison are a couple things. One is just the sheer access, the open access to so much not healthy content, like just the straight stuff that as a believer we'd say like that is not good to consume. Like it is either, it's sexually provocative or explicit, or it's not truth. It's like expounding on things that are not truth. Like it's things that
comparison generating, insecurity generating, rage generating.
Yeah. So then there's that other space where it's not like just bad content. It's other stuff where it's not necessarily bad, but the way it's affecting me, it's not healthy. So someone put like social media is like before social media, you'd go to like a high school reunion and like you kind of put yourself forward, this like 10-year snapshot of yourself, like the inflated, real self, it's like
just the highlight reels.
Yeah. It's like the dude who goes to rents like a sports car to go to his high school reunion or something like that. It's like the inflated version, but instead of that being just once every 10 years, it's like 10 times a day.
Wow.
And we're constantly putting our inflated side. So it's like if we're not having that real relationship, and the effect that it comes on me, it's like, well, everyone else is always on vacation having these elaborate meals and dressed to the nines, and everyone else is like that. It's not presenting real life. And so that effect, if I'm not careful, that effect is not good. It also, again, like the access that I have, it's taking away downtime. It's like if I have just think about a reflex, and it's not just social media. This might be more just like cell phones in general or just media in general. It's like if I'm standing in line and I'm waiting for longer than 4 seconds, probably it might be 3. It's like a quick draw. It's like phone's out. And I'm like either social media scroll or I'm like looking on ESPN. And
technological cowboy over here.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but like I'm waiting and I have such a reflex. I like whip out my phone and I'm like, there's literally nothing to look at on my phone right now. Like there's no news I want to read. I'm all caught up on ESPN. Yeah. I don't need to scroll. And it's like, just have a moment of just silence, of just for your own, if not for any spiritual reason, just for your mental health. Yeah. So I would put it in the category of from the discipleship. We do need to talk about the church engagement part. Yeah. The discipleship side, I would say social media is not bad. Yeah. It's powerful. And so we need to use it well.
Yes.
And we either need to leverage it for good. We don't need to go on and get all amped up and say things on social media we wouldn't say in person. Yeah. We don't need to consume content that's just rotting our souls, or it's just we need to be honest about the effect it's having on us. Like it's powerful, it's potent, and so we've got to treat it like that.
100%.
Okay. So let's take it to the church engagement side. So just to recap, some of you are like, hey, that's my job. Hey, it's powerful. It's good. It's not bad. Yeah. Just you've got to use it intentional. Okay. So now let's talk about church engagement. So your vantage point as a pastor, has social media helped or hurt people in their church engagement?
Yeah. So in social media, are we talking everything from digital platforms, church online? Are we going into church online stuff?
I think we do. Okay. We'll say not just like Instagram and TikTok. We're talking about YouTube, online church.
I think it's a little bit of the same in terms of it really forces us to be honest with how we're engaging. So I'll give you a great story and then I'll give you another experience. So we've got a guy, high school student in our church, recently came to faith, got baptized. He's just on fire. I had lunch with him. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And he's like, man, I've always kind of been good at social media. So I used to use the platform for like all sorts of crazy stuff. Now I really want to use it to engage in conversation with people about Jesus and faith.
Yeah.
And so he's totally doing that. And he was picking my brain on questions. He's like, what if I talked about this? How would you talk about that? It was awesome. I was like, dude, this is like, so there are fantastically redemptive uses for social media with a missiological angle, meaning seeing ourselves like God sees us as missionaries to our world, where you could totally leverage it. And now you're reaching the world. It's like, wow, imagine if Paul had that. He would be like, man, bump these letters and these trips and these, I can do an epistle like that to the world. Like,
amazing.
Wow. You know? And at the same time, we got into a further conversation. He's like, dude, but man, when it comes to like lust and pornography, he's like, man, social media sometimes gets me. So I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
It can do amazing things for the kingdom and rot your soul. I think with church online, it's similar. So we had people, like imagine if like you got sick and you have to stay at home, or you're caring for someone who's a shut-in, and before we'd be like, man, I wish I could just hear the word of God preached and engage with the community of faith, and boom, church online, that's amazing.
Yes.
What an incredible opportunity. And at the same time, you're like, man, I could totally go to church today. Yeah. I could totally like engage with people, like not just like consume it, but actually be the church, not just consume church and go and get to encourage somebody else, get to pray with somebody else, get to be a warm, welcoming hands and feet of Jesus to somebody else. But I could also just sleep in my bed and Pastor Pillow is calling my name and just like tune in right at the last second, consume everything and go on with my life. And if we're not careful, we become the antithesis of what God has created us to be. Rather than being ambassadors for Christ, we are consumers of Christianity.
Yep.
And I think that's dangerous.
I think that's really well put. I would also say I think there's been strengths, but I think we got to be honest about the weaknesses. And so I'm going to be a little less picking a line on this one because I think there's really strong strengths and weaknesses. The reach, the missiological part, the missions part, the reach is important. There are people that they can't physically go to church, but let's agree that's a minority. Mm-hmm. There are people that they're like, hey, I have to work. I have to work on Sundays or whatever. And so this gives them an opportunity.
Social anxiety is a real thing, and skyrocketingly so.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I also think that there is something to be said for, but if I'm an able-bodied person and I'm just being lazy and I'm not going in person, a couple things, like what is that saying about how much I'm valuing this, how committed I am to this? Because, let's be honest, sometimes if you're watching church at home, having church on in the background, but you're doing the dishes. You know what I'm saying? Done it. I've done that. Like I was on sabbatical and I was like, I'm just going to do church online. And then halfway through, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm not fully engaged. I'm doing a crappy job at the dishes. Can I say crappy on the podcast? I just said crappy on the podcast. It happened, so it's there.
I'm doing a crappy job with the dishes, and I'm totally not fully engaged in my heart with Jesus. Like, I'm not doing either in any sort of... I mean, there.
In the end, like, and the consumer part is important. Worship is not for me. It's an offering to the Lord. The first act of, like, kind of official worship that we see in the Bible is Cain and Abel bringing an offering to God. Now, anything we do for the glory of God is an act of worship, but like the worship is not for us, it's for God. I mean, just think about logically for a second. If I'm doing something religious for me, it's for me. I'm not doing God a favor. It's for me. Like worship is submitting to a being that is far more superior to me. It's for him. When we come to church, I'm not coming to church for what I get out of it. Oh, did they do those songs that I like? Oh, I like songs that are louder, songs that are faster, songs that are more modern, songs that are more traditional. I like sermons that are shorter, that are longer, that are funnier, that are more convicting, or that are more biblical, or whatever. It's not for me. Worship's not for me. It's for the Lord.
Yeah.
And so I've also got to say, if I can go, and there's some reasons like you said, there's legitimate reasons to watch out, but if I can go and I'm just not, because it's easier for me and I'm not being part of the body, I'm not finding a way to serve, I'm not finding a way to engage, I'm not even building the fellowship there. Like, I think I've got to ask some questions. Is it because my framework for church is that it's for me and this is on demand, it's easier? I think it's powerful. There's reach. There's people that wouldn't be able to go to church otherwise, but it's confronting us as to how we view church. Church is not just a platform. It's not where we're getting some self-help teaching. It's not a master class that we're catching on demand. We're part of a family and a body, and we're ultimately, when we come together, not forsaking to meet together as the Bible commands us to do, we're coming together for the Lord, ultimately. So I like what you're saying. It's confronting us about what we think of church.
And I think, again, on that flip side of this isn't some like condemnation. How dare you? Like, the reality of the vision of church, the called out ones, the ecclesia, is that church is not just something we consume. It's who we are. It's
good.
if you're missing from the equation, we are uniquely missing you in the expression of what God wants to. Like, you're not just a consumer. You need the church, capital C, and your local body, and the church needs you.
Yes.
You've got unique gifts and perspective, and God's got good works He's prepared in advance for you to walk in. And so it's not just like, man, feel bad because we're missing out on the gift of you. We need you.
Yeah.
And you need us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. So, to wrap up, social media, how has it helped or harmed both discipleship and church engagement? And I think it has done both. I think it can do both, but I think social media is powerful. I don't think it's evil. I don't think it's wicked. I think it is actually so powerful. We need to harness it well. We need to watch over it in our own lives. We want to use it well as churches, and we want to take advantage of it in a good way with our church engagement. And so I think it has done both. Is that fair?
Yes.
Anything you'd add?
Nope. That's great.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining us in the City Rev Life podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the City Rev Life podcast. Feel free to subscribe and leave a rate and review. We love it when you share it with your friends on social media, so don't forget to tag us at cityrev.church. If you're interested in more resources, download our City Rev Church app and follow us on social media. Have a great day.